Hello and welcome to Impact Africa, our online TV program where we get to have conversations with diverse people and organizations who are impacting lives positively. My name is Dr. Kemi Akiode Adebayo, also known as Mama K, and in today's program is, multi-talented, humble, gentle, does not take nonsense, visionary, I could go on, is a missionary, is an author, is a leader, is a musician, and so much. I call him Uncle David Kadalie, and he is the pastor for every Nation Schaapkraal in Cape Town. Uncle David, you're welcome to Impact Africa. How are you today?
I'm doing very well, and quite a privilege to be interviewed by you.
And we've tried to have this interview for a while. So I'm glad and I feel so honored to be able to do this today. So Uncle David, we're in your beautiful, lovely home and I want to hear your story. Where were you born? How was life growing up? And I know you normally talk about your parents, lovingly. So tell us about yourself.
Well, I was born in District 6.
Okay. That's in Cape Town.
That's in Cape Town, really central part of Cape Town. And I come from a family of 9 children, and I'm the eldest of 9.
9?
Yeah.
And you're the eldest?
I'm the eldest.
So you're like me as well? Because
Yes.
I'm the eldest of 13. You're 9, we're 13. Okay.
We are 7 boys and 2 girls.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
That's right.
Okay.
And then I come from a home probably where when I was born, my dad was already a pastor. So I come out of a Christian family.
Right.
With a mom that has really stood alongside him, but who's more of a crafts person. She was a brilliant caterer. In fact, any craft you can think of, she did.
Wow.
She was just an incredible woman, And
Did
very,
anybody
very
get
talented.
that talent as well? Any of your siblings?
I think in different ways.
Okay.
For instance, most of the sons are good cooks.
Okay. So your wives can't say, they can't show off too much because you can cook.
Most of them probably got married to wives that are not very good at cooking.
I think that was intentional then by your mom. Your mom had seen that coming. You could get into trouble though. You could get into trouble for saying that.
But there's 1 or 2 of them that are very good.
Okay. Right. So she's very creative, can cook, does a lot of other things. So how was life growing up?
Life was very challenging because we grew up in District 6. And we left there when I was 8 years old.
Okay.
But my dad was in charge of some churches within District 6.
Okay.
I think it was 3 or 4 churches. And over the years, apartheid, what it did, we had to close down churches. And we moved to Mowbray while my dad was still ministering in District 6. So slowly over the years, we had to close down churches. And then in Mowbray, where we lived, because my dad wasn't a full-time pastor, but he worked as a full-time pastor.
Oh, really?
But he also worked for the municipality.
Okay.
So because of his job, he was transferred to Mowbray.
Right.
And then also because of apartheid, we were thrown out. We had to just give him 2 weeks' notice to get out of our house because of...
That must have been dreadful.
And then also the school I was at closed down. Wow. So it was difficult, moving, losing your home, losing your church.
Starting all over again. And then moving to an area that is crime infested because there was no place. People on the waiting list were waiting for years and years. So now all of a sudden we were thrown out and needed a place. And our lives were turned upside down. It was a very difficult process. Wow.
But I believe it was all for a reason.
So education-wise, I know you said your school was closed. So where did you get your basic education and your tertiary
my basic
one?
education, and I had to move from school to school.
Right.
I even had to help my dad and leave high school and finish it at night school. And then I studied Look, when I started off, I thought I'll be a piano repairer because I was very involved with playing piano.
Okay.
So I took a job as a piano repairer, but I didn't stay long.
Right.
And then, just to cut a long story short, I got involved in draftsmanship because I was also interested in art and plans and all those kind of things.
Right.
But during that period, I was very involved in ministry, in church. Dad is a pastor.
Yes,
I'm involved
obviously.
in youth work, children,
Whether you like it or not.
Work,
Yes.
very involved. And I seem to have had a call to youth ministry and felt that I needed to study. But even before I studied and went to study theology,
Right.
the church called me to assist a pastor and to consider full-time youth work, youth ministry.
Right.
So it was in an area called Salt River.
Okay.
And that's where I went and started. But within 6 months, the pastor had to leave to go sort at another church.
Right.
And they said, David, can you just hold the church? Because it was a pioneering church. Hold the church while we wait for another pastor. And another pastor never came along. I ended up being the pastor. People got saved and were discipled. And before I knew it, I was leading a church. But I thought I better get myself trained.
Right.
And that's when I went to study theology. So what was challenging is studying theology and running a church full time.
Right.
That was quite a challenge. But I did that, I completed that. And then at the end of my training, I also felt a call to full-time ministry in Youth for Christ.
Right.
So now I was doing that. Now my previous involvement with Youth for Christ was 1974, where I was part of a music team that ministered right through South Africa, Mozambique, Madagascar, Mauritius, and Reunion. So that's the time when I was when I was exposed to overseas ministry.
Right.
But when I came back, I wasn't the same. I think I was more just a pastor's kid involved in ministries, a real PK. But when I came back, I had just a real sense of call in my life. Okay.
Was that based on the travels and what you saw? So where were you and how long were you there for?
Well, we traveled.
Traveling.
Yeah, the travel, it was a sort of a year-long program.
Okay.
So we first had to do training.
Right.
So they train and you do songs and stuff. So it's a whole 3 months training, I think.
Okay.
Before we traveled for the rest of the months, And so it's one of these year-long programs.
I see.
So it was incredible.
You're coming back and totally different
back
person.
Reporting, I was different. And now I was always involved with music. And youth ministry and stuff, and
was that from the piano repairing? Because I'm trying to look at the connection now.
Well, the connection was my dad, because he was involved in ministry.
Yes.
He was involved with a missionary who had a piano.
Right.
And then she went back to England, left the piano, and said, "My dad must try to sell it and send the money over."
Okay.
So while the piano was at our home, I was plonking, and my dad realized, hey, I've got talent now. I've never studied music.
Gifted.
And people just don't understand.
From what I know from Uncle David, he's a guru.
But people don't understand because it's just a gift. It's just a gift of God. So I was playing, and then my dad wrote to her and said, I would like to keep the piano and trust God for finances to pay you. And she said, yeah, that's all right. So I've been fiddling on the piano, and I'm still fiddling.
It's no longer fiddling.
My parents couldn't afford to send me for any training.
Because you already probably had all the skills.
But not that. I would have loved to study music. Okay. My parents were just unable. It was just, we couldn't afford it. He didn't get much money, so we lived by faith. I just know living by faith. There is somebody who tried to send me, but it was just for a few weeks. Then they got into trouble financially. So I've never had the opportunity to study.
So let me go back to Youth for Christ, because I know you were in Madagascar as well for some time.
That's right.
Was that based on Youth for Christ, missionary work, or was that just a general one?
Well, in 1979, that's the year I got married to Denise.
Ooh, and you've been married for how long now?
43 years.
43, yeah.
This year will be 44. So we have...
In 1976, okay.
No,
what year?
1979.
79, okay.
1979 I got married. But in that same year, I finished my studies, I married, and I joined Youth for Christ.
Oh, that same year.
79, yeah. So that
Triple
was quite
celebration.
that was quite a challenging year. And then I got involved with Youth for Christ Cape Town.
Okay.
And eventually became the director of Youth for Christ.
Right.
Cape Town. Then after, so it was almost 10 years, I've discovered by then God has gifted me as a pioneer. And I shouldn't be too long in a job. Probably a minimum of 6.5 years, and then,
you move.
But then I must move on, because I've discovered pioneers can break down what they've built up if they stay too long, because they shouldn't move into a maintenance role. They are pioneers, So after about 10 years, but with different positions in Cape Town, I became the director and then moved to George, and then also became the regional director for all the Capes.
Right.
Which is the South Cape, the Eastern Cape, the Northern Cape. So I traveled quite a bit, but I pioneered the ministry in George, Knysna, Oudtshoorn, the South Cape. And today we've got a big option center, which is crisis pregnancy center, Kids Stop, and we've got ministries all over the place. So basically
the churches then were doing a lot of community work as well, because your hat as well is in the community.
That's right.
And
basically, so through Youth for Christ, we worked with local churches, and we pioneered ministries. And sometimes we did things which local churches can't do, as an organization, but specializing with teenage ministry.
Right,
and then from there, I've been 9.5 years in that area, in that position.
Right.
I felt the need to pioneer Madagascar Youth for Christ.
Okay.
So I went to Madagascar with my family, Denise and I, and
your two boys. They were born at that time.
And two boys, yeah.
They're young men now.
They were, I know.
If they hear us say boys,
38 and 40 now.
They're young men.
Well, 37, 39, yeah.
Okay.
So we went to Madagascar, and incredible to pioneer in a different culture with language challenges and cultural challenges. But God, in an amazing way, God has started a ministry by starting English clubs. Because teenagers was just passionate to learn English. They speak Malagasy and French.
Right.
But for some reason, they had a notion if they know English, they can get off the island because of the poverty, you see. So we started these English clubs, and God has done amazing work. I mean, we had no idea what God was planning to do. And today we're in 10 cities in Madagascar.
Wow.
10 cities with a training center, agricultural school, and we have seen young people. Somebody just wrote to me now the other day who's got a master's in English, and he started English in our club.
That little seed of an English club.
I think we've got about between 4 and 6 young people who've gone to have masters in English, or lecturers, or just using the English in the marketplace, or whatever it is. God just used English. And I had no idea. To be honest with you, I don't even think I'm very good in English.
Probably, which was not what God wanted anyway, but it was how the impact.
It is what happened. Kids came, teach us English. Thinking, I didn't have the tools. The only tool I had was the Bible.
Which is a powerful tool.
But the process from there is just amazing. How God bring an English young man who was teaching business in Madagascar.
Okay.
He was a backslider, and the Lord brought him my way. And he helped me, and we set up a curriculum for beginners, for intermediates, right up to business English, conversational classes. And out of that, a ministry was birthed. I mean, evangelism, discipleship, radio ministry, music, drama.
Wow.
It just, and then social involvement, and leadership development. We raised all the leaders. Now, this is for me the miracle. And also to see how God has gifted me. I love raising people, raising leaders. But every city and these are big cities. I mean, Madagascar is 28 million people.
Is it?
So we talk about,
it was that big?
It's a massive island.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Every city has a coordinator or director that was a teenager in my club.
Wow. See how that
through discipleship, through leadership development, through mentorship and coaching, and even helping them with their education, God has just raised up. Some of these kids couldn't even speak. They were so dead scared of this missionary because I was so big, and they were dead scared of me. There's one young person, the first day he arrived, he just wanted to leave. And his friend said, no, don't say that. Because he was in the wrong classroom, and I told him to go to the next classroom, not because I was doing the conversational class. And I told him he must go, and he was just thrown, and he thought he better leave, and they convinced him
to stay.
But he was such a timid, sensitive young man. Today he's the leader in the capital city, probably my best leader. Both he and his wife are met in Youth for Christ.
Wow.
I mean, this guy, he does things that I can't even do. I mean, it's just incredible. He built. He became one of the top young men with the old Barack Obama program. One of the top young men in Madagascar.
Wow.
And he came back with a vision, because before he left, we did a strategic plan. And one of the things he said, I would like to build a center one day. He came back
to do that
and pursued that. And today he's got a training center.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's just incredible, because every time I look at his photo when he arrived and what is now, the grace of God.
The grace of God.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I've seen so many of that. And then after Madagascar, I became the regional director for the Indian Ocean Islands. So I was over Madagascar, Mauritius, Reunion, Seychelles, Comores, and pioneered ministries there, and strengthened ministries where it was weak. And then and then felt to get back, because we did homeschooling with my sons, but when they had to do the last year of school, we sent them back home. They stayed with my parents, but God told us we must get back to our sons.
Because you need to, that family unit is important.
But during that whole process also, I became part of the oversight team over Africa. Wow. So over 33 nations in Africa, we had a oversight leadership teams. I traveled, besides always traveling since 1974, but I traveled much in Africa, to Rwanda, to Ethiopia. May I say, Ethiopia, Rwanda, the East Africa, about 9 times I'd traveled. Probably Nairobi 30 times, because that was our headquarters in Africa. But 33 nations I trained, and most times training East, West, Central, get all the islands and get all the directors together and train. So that was, and then I felt I'm too old for youth ministry.
You're never too old. Well, because you keep passing the button.
The thing is, the trains change fast. And also, because I raise leaders, I also felt, I'm in Youth for Christ, I need to be an agent for Jesus.
Right.
But then I felt coming home, then we felt we needed to come back to Cape Town, and got involved in a church while still doing traveling. But I got involved in a church. And then eventually, when I felt I needed to resign, the next day I was snapped up by his people then, which is now Every Nation.
Every Nation.
And the pastor said, I heard you left. We want you on our pastoral team. And I've actually been for 17 years, not full-time, but for 17 years at Every Nation.
Every Nation. Yeah. That's interesting. And I'm going to close before we go on to the break with this one. I know now you're I know you don't like titles, but I consider you as the lead pastor now for Every Nation. Schaapkraal. That's it, which is in Cape Town. Twisted name. And I know, in terms of where the church is, in terms of the surrounding, which is an area that has a lot of marginalized people, low income and so on. How has that been for you? I know you were just recently released, by Baxter. How has that been for you? And what are the needs, for the church at the moment?
Yeah, look, I've always been involved with marginalized. I mean, for 8 years, when I came back, for 8 years, I was in a place called Bonitoon, which is an informal settlement, and doing medical missions and, just feeding and sending people for skills and all kinds of things, helping with education. But and then I got involved with Schaapkraal. There was a Korean missionary who was here for many years feeding people.
Okay.
And then and they're struggling with language. So they wanted me to come in because my dad was quite involved with him. My dad was very involved with him.
Interesting.
And because my dad was a champion for the poor. My dad was a pastor, but he was buried at 83 out of the city hall by the mayor and the premier because he was a champion for the poor. He was known by every Dick, Tom and Harry. My dad never went anywhere without bread in his car. He was just known. He was just he was just a giver, you know. So I think we got a lot from that. So I got involved in Schaapkraal just to help with the social, but I just felt I didn't want to be in a program where people ended up being dependent on you. We need to have a development program and look and be concerned about people's dignity and skills development and stuff. And that's what I told them. I'll only get involved in Schaapkraal if I can be involved in a development program.
Right.
But I'm also strong on discipleship. And if I can disciple people and raise leaders. Yeah, and then I asked him, the Korean missionaries, if I'm here, I would like to plant a church and establish a church. And that's what we did.
Right.
And started discipling. We did all kinds of skills, leadership training courses. And in April of 2020, we launched Schaapkraal Every Nation. Or Every Nation.
And that was during COVID.
Well, that was just off,
Yeah.
So that was quite challenging.
I'm sure it must have been.
And we got a vibrant little church going.
Awesome.
Yeah, we got a Bible school, foundation classes. We do sewing classes. We have chess
really?
club.
Okay.
Yeah, we do weekly feeding programs and raising leaders, you know. And I've got a strong leadership team that I'm working with. And I'm constantly aware. And I let people know I'm 71.
I was just going to say succession planning and training.
I've got a 5-year strategic plan.
Okay.
But part of my strategic plan is a legacy to leave leaders. One of the things God has allowed me to do since I was in leadership as a young person, and I think it's the way I've been led, is to always leave with somebody that you've discipled and trained. So most of the people who took over from me did not come from the outside, they came through the ranks. So when I start something, I start with the end in mind. Because and people always wondering, why do I always tell them I'm 71? Because first of all, I want them to know I'm in a period of grace. You know, the Bible talks about 70 years. So when you say 71, you're in grace years.
Yes.
And my legacy is to leave people behind. I don't want Schaapkraal to die when I'm gone one day. And you can only sustain a work when you develop leaders.
I completely agree. And I liked what you said there about, you know, you start something with the end kind of in mind, and that makes you work through it. And I see that now that you're saying it, because we do attend the same church, and shout out to Every Nation. Baxter, although he's gone to plant this church now, but I see that with, you know, the leaders you've been working with. So even on the day, you know, you were being released, I saw that, the young lady, now it makes sense. This is a succession plan that was happening without even the person knowing or other people knowing. But on that note, we'll be right back. So Uncle David, born in District 6, 70 years old, planning on leaving a beautiful legacy behind. Both your parents were involved in church. Your dad was a champion of the poor, like you said. Your mom was very gifted, you know, cooking, creative, and a lot of things who I believe as well has influenced you. Your love for music, not trained piano, journey as a missionary, as a leader to Madagascar, around Africa. Wow. there has been so much there. For you, what has been the greatest challenge, that you said you've experienced, and how did you manage to handle that? Because I'm sure there's been many challenges. So maybe just pick one particular and how you managed.
Well, I think, there's a number of challenges I can think of. But there's something I need to say that has been at the back of my mind for many years. As a teenager, there was a prophetic word over my life.
Okay.
Now, I didn't even come from a church that believed in prophecies.
Oh.
My dad was a very conservative pastor. Mm-hmm. So the bass guitarist in my band belonged to this Pentecostal service. And then the pastor said, there's a young man here, I've got a word for him. And it was me. He doesn't know me. And he prophesied, and for me, because I don't understand prophecy at the time,
right,
and what he said didn't make even sense to me because of who I was. Even though I had all this talent, I also had a poor self-image,
Oh.
I didn't like crowds and,
Really?
Oh, no.
I don't want to believe that.
When I play piano, I hide behind the piano.
Okay.
And I don't want anybody to see me. And, also I was now I'm so big, but I was very thin. Very thin. So I was skinny. And I had I was very conscious of being so thin, And I hated being so thin. But he said 4 things. He says, this young man is going to be a leader of leaders. I mean, that was so far-fetched as far.
Deep.
He's going to travel the world. He's going to be a bridge between black and white in this country and be a reconciler. And he's going to have a ministry of joy.
Wow.
And he was and I remember afterwards my friend asking me, how did you feel when? So I said, I've never heard such a lot of hogwash in my life.
Because you were an old teenager,
I was an older teenager.
Yeah, like travel the world.
And stuff I don't even think I was out of Cape Town. And I'm gonna bring black and white together. I hated white people for what they've done to our family. So nothing made sense. Nothing really made sense. And you know what? All those prophecies
has come to pass.
And I was constantly aware, and every time, not making it happen, but just seeing what God is doing. And when I went through my passports and saw I was at 41 countries, with many of those come 8, 9 times, 3, 4, 5 times, I'm thinking that's what the prophecy was about. And just God is an amazing. So, but with all that said, my whole life was a journey of faith. And the difficulty is because of my pioneering nature. Most people will sit down and in business, you work at a budget and you know how money's going to come in. When you're a pioneer in ministry, you live by faith. God gives you a vision and you've just got to make it happen. You've just got to go. And for me, that was the greatest challenge. In fact, I want to write a book about how God came to our aid, Denise and I, in ministry, and God challenged us with a lot of things. To give you an idea with Madagascar. When we went to Madagascar, we took everything we owned, put it in a container, and shipped it over. After 7.5 years, when God said, your time is up, I started trusting God for another container to bring my stuff back. And the Lord said, no, everything you own, give it away. Now, everything. I had a car, a Jeep that side, which the organization got for me. I got a motorbike because some of the worst roads in the world, My keyboards, I'm a musician, so all my books probably was the most difficult because I was an avid reader and studied and then for everything we owned,
gave it away.
And I spoke to Denise and he says, we better do what God says. And it took us 3 months to give our life away. Wow. And we came back with a little
The suitcase.
And we in our 50s now. Yeah, 50, so we got to trust. People say, how can you be so stupid? You're not the youngster anymore. But the challenge was just listening to God and moving.
Being obedient.
And just having to trust Him. You know, I mean, I can tell you stories that will just...
I know. And I really, really would love to hear more. On that note, we'll be right back.
Okay.
Wow, Uncle David, powerful.
Yes.
My takeaway from that segment before we went on the short break, was basically being obedient, to God.
Right.
And, even just saying, like you said, living by faith and coming back. And even though people were like, you're in your 50s and how are you going to start all over again? Your books, your car, your everything. Wow.
Yeah.
So let me now go to, because I know I probably need to come back and do more of this because I want to hear more stories. And I know you were talking about you're going to write a book, at some point, but you've written so many books already on leadership and a few other stuff. So for you, what motivates you as a person? And what are the qualities you'll see of a leader? Because you're about leadership. Through and through in everything you do. What are the qualities a leader should have, and what motivates you?
When you read and you hear about leadership, they say leadership is influence. But to influence, you need to have trustworthy leadership. And to be trustworthy, there's two components that you need. It's first of all character and competency.
Okay.
Because if you only have character, and it's important, the Bible is strong on character development. But if you only have character without competency, your followers and you will only end up being mediocre. But if you have competency without character, you end up abusing people.
Yeah. Deep.
So for me to be a leader, and as a Christian leader, we need to have spiritual leadership.
Right.
The Bible talks about worldly leadership and spiritual leadership. Like this, worldly leaders lord it over people, controlling people. But spiritual leadership is about serving. And in Romans 8 also it talks about leadership is a spiritual gift. Now, when that hit me, because I was reading all kinds of books, secular books, Christian books. And then I decided I'm going to go on a journey and see what the Bible has to say about leadership.
Okay.
And I've been writing leadership principles now for years. I've got 250 leadership principles that are now in 2 books.
Okay.
And I'm working towards having 365 before I die, so that we can have one a day.
That makes sense.
The principles of leadership. And so I believe in biblical leadership, especially within the church context. You cannot come with a secular mindset.
Right.
If you start looking at what the Bible has to say, and I've written down just why it's different, and some of the reasons is because of we are being enabled by the Spirit. It is not just learning, which is important, but the enablement that is necessary. And the whole thing of servanthood, understanding Jesus' style. One of the reasons why I'm so against using titles to lead people is because leadership is about servanthood.
Yeah.
It's coming down to people's level. It is not one above, it's one among.
Right.
It is serving people. It's about giving your life away. It's investing in people. It's about humbling yourself before God. And I think too many of us, leadership goes to our head. And we even give ourselves titles. And we got to sit on, you got to function, you got to sit in a white chair and right in front. I sit where the people sit. So, people get upset with me because when I speak at a function, they want me to sit there with the boss in front And I look at the rest of that, I said, no, I'm comfortable here with my wife. I just, and sometimes I just, to be honest with you, I can just see it. Yeah. So my understanding of leadership is a biblical understanding, and Jesus is my model. Jesus is my model, So there's a lot I can say. We can talk forever about leadership.
I know.
I won't do that.
And I actually will want to come back. I'm just looking at you now, and I'm thinking, especially what you're saying in terms of leadership and servitude and the churches of today. And I'm thinking, I need to get a few people together where we could have, good conversation about this. People like you and maybe somebody who is not of that, just to share, perception. So I'm sure we will come back to that, because I think we have to talk about that. Yeah. We probably have to talk about that. But I asked what motivates you, and I'm going to, before we go into the next segment, I want to hear what keeps you going. Why are you doing this? I know it's a call upon your life, but what makes you get up each morning to say, you know what? I want to keep doing this. I want to leave a legacy. What motivates you as a person?
Well, probably a love for people.
Okay.
And also the knowledge that what people can become when they get opportunities, when somebody believes in them, when we prepare to, I normally tell the needy and the poor and the marginalized, don't let your circumstances define you.
Yeah.
You've been predestined for good works. That's what the Word of God says. There's something in you. And I think too many of our people have been really almost, their identity has been affected.
Yes.
By the poverty and the way people relate to them. We look down at people. And God has given me, people always ask me to preach, but I don't like preaching. To be honest, I'm not motivated. I do it because they want me to do it. You know what motivates me? Is seeing what God does in people's lives and influencing people to believe in themselves, to look beyond their circumstances, and to help them and give them tools that will help them get them out of their situation and believe. It starts with loving yourself, believing in yourself, and believing that God has a plan for your life. So that really motivates me. It's just, people can't understand why I moved from Baxter, which is really a church full of academics.
Correct.
Academics, I mean, I've got connect groups with just PhD people and masters and stuff. So I moved from that church to a church where I find teenagers who haven't even started grade 1, who can't even spell their own names. That motivates me more than being.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah.
I'll close this bit with name 3 things or people, that might be, that you value most in life. What are the 3 things?
The first thing is my wife, Denise. Denise.
She's brilliant.
Yeah, Denise has been a partner with me. Probably right from the start we met. I met her when she was 17. So you can imagine, as you can imagine, in every cotton picking ministry I was involved in, she was there.
She was there. She's been along all the time.
I appreciate my wife, Denise, as a partner in ministry, right up to today. I mean, she was in the week. I mean, we started, at our age, we started a youth club in Schaapkraal.
I know, it's
and we had up to 71 teenagers. And now that there are 24 kids made commitments to Christ. And on Sunday, Denise started discipling them. 17 kids came along to be discipled, and Denise was there with the team, So she's been an integral part. The second thing is, I always tell people, I'm not a self-made man. There's a lot of people who've invested in my life and who believed in me. My dad was one of it, who pushed me.
Right.
I mean, with the piano, with somebody who can't read music. I mean, I can read chords and stuff, help myself. But I've played in Denver, Colorado, in England, in Nairobi, all over the place, leading international worship groups and stuff. And people there's people who pushed me, who believed in me. To be honest with you, when they told me to lead the worship team in Denver, Colorado, I prayed like crazy, that it falls through. That I don't get a visa, that I don't get a... I was dead scared because America, what?
And crowds, like you were...
Okay, I've overcome that.
You had overcome that at that time. Okay,
I mean,
okay.
First appointment, I was in front of 1,000 kids. I
okay, so you had overcome that.
My legs were shaking, so I was so, I was an older teenager having... But God has to deal. That was another story where God had to deal with that. It came when I was baptized in the Spirit.
Interesting.
When the Spirit of God took hold of my life, and one of it, poor self-esteem, self-image, self-worth, all went through the window when I recognized who I am in Jesus. That's why, and some of these things I don't understand because it's the work of the Spirit.
It's the work of the Spirit.
So I don't like to take too much glory. I share these things, but God gets the glory.
Yeah.
So I appreciate people who've invested in my life, who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. And the third thing could be, probably what I value is the opportunity to serve. The opportunity to give my life away. I just believe with Schaapkraal, when I'm finished there, I'm only finished if I give everything I know and everything that's been given to me, give it to them. So I want to give my life away.
Yourself.
I want to go to the grave empty. I don't want to sit with all the stuff in me. And that's what I value, the opportunity. So I train a lot. I do training. The poor Schaapkraal knew what hit them.
They really don't yet. And you're not going anywhere for now. Well, we'll be right back because we need to have some break. We'll be right back. So obviously, Uncle David, before the break there, you were sharing, I believe, what could be, even though it was about three things or three people, that you value most in life: your wife, people that believe in you, and the opportunity as well to serve. So I want to ask you now, about what are some of the key lessons as well that over the years you believe you've gained. You've already shared a lot there. Don't let your circumstance define you, and so much. What are the key lessons do you think you've heard and you've gained that will help young people who are watching us just now?
Probably an important thing is to honor your parents. I'm saddened because we've got a graveyard that's not far from us, and I normally walk around and just see young lives that have been taken, just wiped out by crime, all kinds of things. And I'm constantly aware of the scripture that says, if you want a long life, honor your parents. I think something else, we need to have I tell kids, please have a teachable spirit.
Yes.
Right.
Now we live in a high-tech age where kids are exposed to
So much.
So they
Junk
probably know, but they probably have more information than what we had.
Correct.
But the immaturity. And I say you can learn so much from the older generation. You know, about life,
Right.
about character. Don't think because you've got information that you're smart, that you cannot be taught. So at Schaapkraal, we're trying to give people, we're trying to introduce a learning culture.
Right.
I'm telling you, we're here to learn. I learn from you, you learn from me. It doesn't matter because I've been around so long, I can learn from you. So it's just a learning culture. And also, work ethic. I mean, our kids are just lazy. I mean, because they don't have role models.
Right.
They not have role models. They don't understand hard work. And I think sometimes to today's young people, if they get the opportunity, they want to start at the top.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to start, but they don't know what it is.
They don't want to do the work.
They don't want to do the work. I mean, I'm fascinated, even where I was in the other church with people getting qualifications. They want to start with the best car, with the best this, with the best. They don't understand the journey that it takes. You know, and sometimes they can't cope with the things that's being given to them because they haven't gone through the process of hard knocks. Starting at the bottom, what it is
And
to
working
climb,
your way up.
to learn, because experience is what is needed,
Yes.
not just information. You know, attached with character, maturity. We have major mental health issues today because I think our young people can't cope with life. They can't cope. And see, and I think for teenagers and especially young people, be very careful about the influence in your life.
Yeah.
Because peer pressure is probably the greatest challenge that young people have. Because they have a need to belong. They have a need for affection. Sometimes they have a need for achievement and recognition. And they get that from gangs. They get them from groups. Because that's where they feel they belong. Because at home, mom and dad is not around, or mom and dad is drunk, or whatever it is, you know. So helping kids be careful about the peers that is influencing you, you know. Because they can either make you or destroy
break you.
You know.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking now, what you said then, I want to ask more questions on that. Well, I want to, for the young ones who are out there who are thinking, you know, maybe we're getting it wrong, we don't understand them. Because I know, yes, it's not all the youth that are lazy. I've met a lot of other hardworking. So I want to put a disclaimer there. We're not saying all young people. Yes. So
I've seen.
And you do work, and you've mentored, and yes,
I've seen
correct.
Many of them, you know, and I think an important thing for young people is to have a relationship with Jesus.
Right.
Because you know you can get all the theories and hear all the stories.
A personal relationship.
But it starts with a personal relationship with Jesus because He knows you, He defines you, He's got your destiny in His hands, and we have an enemy, which is the devil, who has only, he also has a three-pronged strategy to steal, destroy, and to what? Yeah, you know, to actually maim our young people, you know, and to rob, you know. Everything God has given you, He wants to take it away.
Yeah.
He has no interest in your destiny and your identification, you know, identity for that matter. No, He's just out to destroy you. And our young people need an encounter with Jesus. Yeah. And I've done that and traveled the world to share about Jesus.
Yeah.
And all the other stuff comes afterwards. Yeah, because it just makes a big difference in a kid's life. And now I see that already at Schaapkraal.
Yeah.
Young people faithfully come. They're involved in worship. They're involved in this because they've committed their life to Jesus. And you know what? It's easier to work with people who have a relationship with Jesus. Because now they understand things about ethics and about morals and about a proper lifestyle and trusting God for their studies, you know. Yes. You don't need to carry it alone, you know.
No, you don't.
You know.
Whew, Uncle David, I could talk. Me and you, we know you can talk. I can talk. And definitely we're going to come back for part 2, focusing on specific things that I want to actually expand on. But my final question, you know, to you, because we've spoken about some of the social issues, the poverty, the unemployment, crime, you know, and so on, which we know exists, which you're already doing a lot of work, you know, and you've done up till date, you know, through mentorship, through leadership, through putting back, you know, in the community, through giving food, giving gifts, giving, you know, a lot of things you've done. And I know you have a heart for the needy, the poor, and those who are marginalized. What would you say are some of the other solutions that we could have to addressing some of the social issues? Or maybe there's another one you're particular about. But I'm about solutions. What more do we need to do? If not you, if not every nation, if not other churches, what more can we do, and who else needs to be involved?
You know, there's something that I do wherever I go. It's called spiritual mapping.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard of spiritual mapping.
No.
But spiritual mapping...
I have to be honest.
Spiritual mapping is going into an area and working sometimes with intercessors and people in the community to discover the strongholds in an area.
Okay.
Because sometimes you work and you work and you work and you pour money and you pour money and you almost don't see any results. But you give. Somebody already told me one day, be careful that you don't throw your money into a bottomless pit. You pour in and you don't see any change. So what we do is we go in and identify the strongholds within a community. And part of our action is a prayer strategy.
Okay.
Before skills and all those kind of things.
Right.
But praying into those strongholds.
Right.
Because there are sometimes within a community certain individuals or even institutions that works against your strategy. You see, I'm a firm believer that we're in a warfare.
Yeah.
Crime, murder, drugs, all these things that we're dealing with, there is a power behind it, and that is Satan. So even in social responsibility, and a lot of people, they've got a heart for the poor and stuff, and they just go, give, and you find for 20 years you're still doing the same thing. You're not making any difference. Because even in social responsibility, we need God. We need the Holy Spirit. We need to be led. We need to know what we're about. We need to see where God is working so that we can cooperate with God.
Right.
And not just do our own thing. Because we want money and we want to be seen to be good. It's a work of God. So, sorry, maybe that's not the answer you're looking for.
No. It's deep.
That is my approach.
No, that is
my approach.
I didn't have any answer in mind.
I'll give you an example. To give you an example, I'm working on having an ECD at Schaapkraal. So we've got a board. We've been working. We've been trying to get this ECD. Now, it's not come off the ground, but all of a sudden, I've been exposed. And I think it's a God thing, because when I started this youth ministry now, which is only over a month now, youth ministry, discovering all these teenagers who can't read, they haven't been to school, they were not registered, they can't even write their names. So I went to the leadership, I said, let's put the ECD on hold. I think God is showing us something different. We cannot be here working among a generation of young people who's got no hope to fit into a marketplace. We're living in a digital world. When you have teenagers who's 14-year-old who hasn't even started grade 1. I mean, it is very sad. So now we had a long meeting on Sunday around this, and there was a lot of, and everybody agreed, we've got to change our strategy. But that was a God thing. And we've got to listen to God and be flexible enough to change course because there's a need.
Yeah.
You know, my wife has been running around trying to get birth certificates for a 14-year-old. There's other kids and other leaders running around trying to get birth. On Wednesday, we're taking our laptops to have kids registered because parents are just tardy. So and there's a deadline apparently. So Wednesday we're going and we're telling the community, come and have your kids registered for school, you know.
So that's simple.
It's a simple thing,
task,
you know?
but overlooked sometimes.
Now, a second thing that is probably something that pumps, you know, the motivation in me is the fatherlessness.
Yeah.
We don't, you know, most of the people in our church is women as mothers.
Yes.
But the fatherlessness, so I'm getting men together. And I've already, and every Sunday I have a group and I deal with all the men in the church, get them together, and we deal with what it is to be a father, what it is to be a man. What does it mean?
The bottom line.
We've got couples in our church who's not married. Now we're discipling them, but I can't put them into leadership because they're living together. So now I've got to get hold of these men. I mean, some of them don't even have work permits to be in the country and all kinds of issues we're dealing with. But fatherlessness and leadership among men is a big concern. It's a big problem because I think a lot of crime, a lot of the ills that we're dealing with is birthed by fatherlessness. Because kids have no security, they have no identity, they don't belong, all these things. So, you know, you can deal with all the stuff, peripherals, but some of the root areas is strongholds, fatherlessness. I mean, there's a lot. Do you want more?
Hey, Uncle David, in fact, I'm like, I don't even know where to go now. I'm like, okay.
But that gives you an idea where I come from.
Yes, it's worrying, it's deep, but you are taking action, and sometimes it sounds, for me, I'm looking at what you say now, and I think that's why I'm actually speechless, and I'm not even coherent, and I'm like, but the bottom line will be, sometimes it's just to start and to be obedient. What you just shared there at the end about, okay, you were going to do ECD before, but now you've had to change the strategy to say, come here, this is not even what this issue. We have other simple issue that we still need to, it's simple, but yet huge because it's a problem. So you're being obedient, you're listening as well to the voice of God.
Got to.
So, and I'm going to end now, because if not, I'm going to get into serious trouble. I really want to continue, but I definitely would love to come back if you don't mind, because there's so much, you know, I believe, you know, there that you've shared. And like you said, you want to empty yourself. And through this is where you're sharing stories like this that can give hope, that can give inspiration to those watching, that can give, confirmation as well, maybe to somebody else that, oh, if he's saying that, this is what is happening to me, or I've been through that, or I see that, oh yes. You know, like you said, that missionary or that guy that saw the vision in you, the 4 things, being a leader, traveling the world, reconciling black and white. What was the 4th one now? Forgotten. But those 4 things, they're powerful. And at that time, you were a teenager, and you're like,
ministry of joy.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. Yeah, ministry of joy. So there might be somebody out there too. Maybe they've prophesied into their life, and they're like, what's that? So I'm hoping, such people, they're watching, or if they're not watching, other people are watching, and it will get to them. I celebrate you. I salute you. I thank you. And I pray, God, that has put you out there, and your father's legacy and your mother's legacy is going to pass on as well to your children. Not necessarily them becoming pastors, but where they would touch lives, impact lives positively, make a difference through their own generation as well to come. Because at the end of the day, like you said, you want to be empty, and we all go out empty with nothing. So thank you. I know you have a lot of people that appreciate you, that say thank you, but thank you for this platform,
Amen.
you know, given to us to say, let's hear you. At 71, you're retired, but you're not tired in a way. You're still going, but you're not just going. For me, you're bringing the young ones along. You're saying, yes, what more can be done? You're sowing in beautiful ways. One that I need to share with you as well is there was somebody you had met through Youth for Christ who knows you very well. I think I mentioned the person to you a week ago, but you didn't remember. And he said, yeah, you might not remember him, but you saw into his life. You know, he's leading another organization doing amazing things. And I'm hoping I can connect you both as well, because you're in the same area of you know, that you are. And I think that's what matters, coming alongside others with the support of people who are in your inner circle, your wife, your siblings, because I see them as well supporting you at projects. So thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks
for
Kimmy.
all you do.
Thanks, and I
thank you.
I appreciate you coming along, because I also believe in partnerships and networking, because there's a lot of people, even in the area where I'm working, that's doing amazing work, and we need to connect, because I don't think we need to duplicate. We need to complement each other and learn from each other. I mean, that is what the work is about.
Yeah.
We're not an island.
Yeah.
You know, there's people who's got more experience and been around longer than us.
Yeah.
And you doing an amazing. I mean, you're doing amazing work yourself. I mean, I can learn so much from you. Man, I don't even.
Oh, David, it's not about me. Let's move on. So, in closing, I want you to just words of encouragement or advice or anything God speaks to you to speak to young people or boy child or anyone you want to speak to. If you could just look directly and just speak to them.
I think I've mentioned a few things. The whole thing of not being defined by your circumstances. There is hope, and Jesus is about hope. He came into the world so that all of us can live a life to the full. The Bible talks about Jesus came so that we can have life and have it in abundance. Not just life, but abundant life. And you know, one day when we get to heaven, there's going to be rewards for that life that is promised us. And I cannot but not end and talk about Jesus, because with everything we do and everything we share comes from a relationship with Christ. I am motivated by Jesus. I'm motivated by the scriptures. I'm every day in the Word, and every time something new comes out. But that's my motivation. As said before, I'm not self-made. I know where I've come from. I had my own issues and my own problems, but I've seen God change and transform me. And today I've just got a love for people, and that's God. God can transform your life. If you're a young man, if you're a young girl, if you're struggling, God can transform and change your circumstances. But you've got to give your life to Jesus, because it's not just about Him being Savior. First of all, He wants to be Lord. He wants to be in control of your life. He wants to be King. He wants to show you what's important and help you through your journey. Journeys are not easy, because through your journey and through your pain, you build character and you become mature. And I just trust that what we've shared today will help you to realize you don't need to be satisfied with the status quo. There is something better for you, and that is the purposes of God. So thank you so much, Kimmy.
Thank you,
so much.
Uncle David.
Yeah.
Thank you, Uncle David.
And
well,
let's just pray every young person that listens to this, that God will do something in their lives.
Amen.
Thank you.
Amen. Well, that's all we've got time for. There's so much packed in there. I know it's been a much longer episode for us than usual, but it's been worth it. And I will advise you to play, replay, and replay, because there's so much to learn and relearn, from it. Live by faith, competence and character, leadership is influence, love for people. It's repeated that so many times. Love for people, which is the basis of what he has been about. And as well, not forgetting, believe in yourself and give your life to Jesus like he has said. I'm going to stop there. And till next time, I hope you've been encouraged and been inspired. And I celebrate you as well for whatever you're doing to impact lives wherever you are. Till next time, this is Mama K saying, stay safe, stay blessed. Remember, God is love. See you next time.